Who's Handsome is the 14th episode of the first season of Everybody Loves Raymond. This is directed by Howard Storm, and as always, there will be spoilers as I discuss various aspects of the episode. And this gives us an introduction to Amy, played by Monica Horan. I don't want to go into too much detail about the character or what happens to the character in future episodes, so I can't say too much about that here without spoiling anything, so this is purely based on the character in this episode, and we learn that she's a friend of Debra's, and Robert happens to come over to try and raise money for the police force, and the line about crunchy treats for the dogs, absolutely loved it, and very clearly there is chemistry between Amy and Robert. We know Amy is single, as she and Debra were just discussing her current lack of love life, and Robert starts to eat some cookie dough, which is relevant to something that Amy had just said, and we have this amazing moment where Robert's eating the cookie dough and Amy approaches him, and it's just really sweet, and instantly we have this chemistry. We also learn about Robert's divorce, and we get a little bit more background about very small background about his marriage and the breakdown of his marriage, and we learn that Robert is very sensitive about his looks because he manages to get a date with Amy. I say manages as if it was difficult. It seems very clear that they're both interested in each other and neither of them are exactly very active in the dating world, and also neither of them have a lot of self-confidence, which I think is a really sweet thing to couple them together to try and hopefully raise each other's confidences. But it's not an instant thing, because Robert comes over to Ray and Debra's house the next day and says that he does have a date and he wants to cancel the date. Not because he's not attracted to Amy, but because, as we learn, he's very sensitive about his looks. And Debra tries to convince him that he's the classic tall, dark and handsome that a lot of women look for. And while that seems to have a positive effect on Robert, it kind of has the opposite effect on Raymond, as we have a scene in the bathroom immediately after where Ray is looking at himself in the mirror, and he's very sensitive. And I think it goes to show that actually men can be sensitive about their looks as well. It's very stereotypical to think that women are always sensitive about their looks and men don't care about their appearance, but actually that's not the case. And even though Debra didn't outright say Ray is ugly and Robert's handsome, it's, there's this implication there that Ray read that into that situation and suddenly he's questioning whether he's attractive enough. And you need to be careful, as Debra was. She tried to be careful, but you need to be careful around everybody because you never know how your words are going to affect somebody. And we'll come back to Debra's involvement in a moment, but Ray then goes over to ask Marie about his looks, and Marie says all of the right things, but to the wrong people, because she's praising Robert in Raymond's presence, and then Robert comes over. Clearly, he's had a great date with Amy. This is the following morning after the date, and he's very happy, and it's nice to see this happier side of Robert. He doesn't really come across as a very positive, happy, upbeat character, but in this scene, there's definitely a smile on his face. And when Raymond leaves the room, Marie says loads of positive things about Ray in front of Robert. So she's saying all of the right things and praising her sons in the right way. She's just kind of saying it to the wrong son at the wrong time. Ray then comes back home a little later on. Some time has passed. Ray has been shopping and he enters the kitchen, and we, the viewers, see him before Debra does. Debra's on the floor cleaning goodness knows what off of the floor, and she stands up and turns around and her face is just amazing, and Patricia Heaton is just fabulous, and the way she reacts, particularly in Everybody Loves Raymond, to certain things just always entertains me, and her reaction here was just fantastic. And she reacted as anybody would to see Ray looking, well, he looks different. Let's put it that way. I had considered using it for a thumbnail for this, but I decided against that because I think the element of surprise is pretty powerful and I don't want to ruin it for anybody who hasn't seen it. But let's just say he looks different. And he comes out with all of these beauty products for his hair and things. And Debra, to her credit, once she got over laughing at him, she said all of the right things and made him realise that he doesn't need all of these products to look good, and she managed to say the things that would help make him feel good. And then they dance, and we have this great moment between them, and it's really lovely. And then we have this amazing final scene. The episode is very quick. It definitely feels very quick. It's the average length of an episode, but it just seems like everything flew by. And we get to the final episode where Ray and Robert are looking at all of the products that Ray bought, and Ray's demonstrating them to Robert, and Frank comes in. And Frank doesn't say anything, but he kind of walks around them. And it's very apparent that he's going to say something. And I think it's fair to predict that he would say something offensive about his two sons using all of these beauty products. And no, he sits down and asks them if they have anything for a dry patch on his face. And I love it, and it's fantastic, and it's so unexpected and so fabulous, and just a really great way to end a really beautiful episode. Who's Handsome is definitely funny, but it's very thought-provoking as well, and some really great moments, and a really good introduction to Amy as well. Needless to say, it's a really enjoyable episode, and I'm sure it's one I will always be happy to watch.